Played briefly with a group that said they needed more melee characters to balance their party. Turned out they had a custom table that permanently mained the PCs when they got hit. Somehow they hadn't put together why no one was playing melee characters. I suggested they drop that homebrew. They weren't interested, and I left the table. So, like, lingering injuries, but worse? Much worse. It was a 4E game, not 5E, so it's not an exact comparison, but think lingering injuries table with less cosmetic injuries and more instant death / retire character injuries, and no mechanisms to recover. It was bad enough that every person who was not new to the game played a range character. Wonder why they did that. Look, if you want to do a lingering injuries table, that's awesome, but make sure that's balanced around the entire group and doesn't just screw over only the melee fighters, because otherwise, you're not going to have a lot of people lining up to play those melee fighters, are ya? This happened to me just last month, and it was an experience for sure. First of all, some background info. I'm a 19-year-old college student, and I'm definitely a nerd. I'm super into anime and manga, mostly manga, comic books, video games, and movies, but I also have other interests, such as fashion and combat sports, which translate into my appearance more than my nerdy interest. I admit, I am an extremely vain person. I like to look good and dress with the trends. I do Muay Thai not because I have a warrior spirit or to learn to protect myself or stuff like that. I learn it just to, stay in shape. I don't do other sports because I'm terrible at other sports. The reason I'm telling you all this is because it'll be important to the story. Let me explain. The title says I'm not a nerd because the group judges me of not being nerd worthy. Yeah, you heard that right. I'll start with the group. Met them about a month ago from my best friend, Faye. Not his real name, by the way. Faye is a super nerd, super into anime, manga, like me, video games, and all that such. We have been friends since we were 8 years old, so he knows tons of crap about me and my interests. He knew I'm super into D&D, but never actually got a chance to play it for real. Being a good friend that he is, during the lockdown, he had contacted with some of his friends that he played Magic the Gathering with to set up a session and invited me to play with them. I was excited, super excited. This is like a dream come true where I can be my super nerdy self with all my fellow nerds without being judged. I wanted to roleplay, I wanted to fantasize badass moments, I wanted to create friendships with my fellow adventurers and such. Little did I know, my fantasy would stay a fantasy. We planned to play and meet at one of Faye's friends' house. He's the DM. Let's call him Gabe. Gabe was super friendly towards Faye, but not so much towards me. I thought maybe he's just not comfortable with me yet, which I completely understand. Then 2 other players show up. Let's call them Ivan and Murray. When we first met, Ivan and Murray straight up acted just like I wasn't even there and kept ignoring me. I was super upset because I thought, how could we have a fun time D&Ding like this? But I kept with my thoughts of maybe they're just uncomfortable with me. Them being uncomfortable might be the problem at first, but as time goes on, I was sure that they're actually hating on me. You see, after everyone arrived, we started to sit down at Gabe's living room, except for Gabe himself. Faye is making small talk with Ivan and Murray. I try to be friendly and converse with them, but they just end the conversation and straight up ignore me. I was getting kind of temperamental with the asshole-ish treatment, so yeah, I called them out on it. I said something along the lines of, why are you guys acting like I'm in my language? They started to look super uncomfortable after that and stayed silent the entire time. I felt super guilty and I just shut up after that. My friend Faye is understandably super awkward after that too. I thought that maybe they're just shy and are intimidated with socializing with new people. I know most nerdy people are socially awkward, but I never thought it would be this awkward. When Gabe started to set up the table, but then since the group was super awkward, they asked what's up. Ivan then replied with, "Why did you invite him over?" pointing towards me. I said, "I came with Faye. I wanted to play D&D, and he said I could join." He also said that Gabe is fine with it. I was super defensive because he made it seem like it was my fault for this tense situation. Then Murray said, "Why do you want to play D&D? You don't look like someone who wants to play this sort of stuff." Now I realize that they're acting the way they're acting because I don't look like a nerd, which is stupid. I really thought this kind of mentality does not exist, but reality proved me otherwise. How does my look have anything to do with me wanting to play D&D, I said. Faye backed me up and said, "You guys sound super dumb right now. Judging people based on their appearance is some 5th grader crap," or something like that. DM Gabe is looking super uncomfortable right now. Ivan then said, "You really should not play this kind of game. We don't like people like you here." I was like, okay, damn fine. I can play with someone else, and just left with Faye. Before I left though, even Gabe the DM said to Faye that maybe he should not invite people like that because it would make them uncomfortable. It was a super disappointing experience. I never thought I would be judged based on my appearance and be an outcast just because I don't look like a nerd. A super disappointing experience, but I'm still trying to look for a nice group to pop my D&D cherries. Sorry for the horrible grammar, by the way. English is not my first language. Just wanted to share the experience. TLDR, other players dislike me for wanting to play D&D because I don't look like a nerd. Oh my god, this is the kind of gatekeeping and the kind of wannabe elitism and exclusivity that ruins hobbies for people. You don't need to prove that you are worthy to be a nerd or worthy to play Dungeons & Dragons. I think everyone should be allowed the chance to play this game. Sure, not everyone's gonna fit in every game, and that is okay, but this is just artificial. It's fake. This party is hating on this guy for being in shape. Absolutely ridiculous. The guy works out. So what? This is on the same level as those guys who go around conventions and quiz every cosplayer on their knowledge of the character they're dressed as to prove that they're a true nerd. It's ridiculous. Nothing more to say than that. This is gonna be hard to write. Everything that happened is still raw and really upsetting to think about. Back in October, my relationship ended. My ex and I played multiple games together with all our mutual friends over Discord. I very quickly realized that the relationship had been abusive and I was doing very bad mentally dealing with all of it. I tried to talk to some of my friends, but all of them ignored me. One day I saw that I had been kicked from one of our game servers. I messaged my friend who DM'd that game and asked what was going on, but I never got a response. I messaged another friend who was there and also got ignored. After a few days of this, I confronted my ex and asked her why this was happening and what was going on. She admitted to purposefully turning my friends against me, and the worst part is that all of them believed her. People I had been friends with since 2018 believed every single word out of her mouth. That's what hurts the most, that they took everything she said at face value and never even spoke to me about any of it. I ended up making a group chat with everyone but her in it and said basically that I hadn't been given any chance to tell my side of the story, that I just wanted to be heard and I was struggling badly and needed support and didn't want to lose my friends that I had known for years. They all left without saying anything and blocked me everywhere. I was so defeated. I ended up cutting all contact with all of them and left every game I was still in. My best friends kicked me out of everything for speaking out about the abuse I was going through. Any support system I could have had with them was gone. Now that everything is over, I realize my ex did this to purposefully isolate me so I couldn't receive any help or tell anyone what she had done to me. But it still hurts that they all took her side and I can't even bring myself to hate them for it. My ex also used D&D to cheat on me with my best friend, but that's a whole other story. Maybe I'll tell that one day when I have the courage. D&D was one of my favorite things in the world, and I know my ex got me kicked out of everything to take my happiness from it. Now I feel like the whole game is just tainted. I desperately want to start over with new people and, play again, but I feel so demoralized about it. She deleted all of my character sheets too. I shared her D&D Beyond, she has a subscription. So starting from scratch is also quite upsetting. I just want to have fun playing a game with my friends and now it's gone forever. I just need to tell my story and know that someone out there will believe me and try to move on and heal away from this. Holy hell, this one is really, really rough. Look, at the top here, we are just going to take what we see here at face value. Why? Because we really don't have any other context to the situation. Obviously, there could be some mistruth in here. However, since we don't have any proof of that, let's just take what we see and let's see what we can learn from it. D&D, at its core, is a social game. That means that all the social BS that can absolutely ruin an experience from you can absolutely carry over to Dungeons & Dragons no matter how much you love the game. Obviously here we're dealing with a very manipulative person who is manipulating everyone in the group. Honestly, if OP is telling the truth here, then these friends are pretty much the worst friends ever. Drop them like a dime without ever hearing their side of the situation. Yeah, not the kind of people you want to keep in your life. Look, at the end here, I want to say I don't have all the answers for how to recover from something like this. But for me, the first step was to step away, to go in the other direction and just keep on going, to live my own life away from the things that hurt me. That is the first step. It's not an easy step, but it's where you have to start. OP, I wish you the best of luck. Before starting, I want to say that the DM is honestly a nice person, and I have no grudge against them. This story is more of a funny mess of a game than a rant against the DM. Now to the story. A friend and I joined an ongoing Curse of Strahd campaign where 3 players just quit. We were told to make level 6 characters, rolling 4d6 for each stat. I asked if they meant roll 4d6, drop the lowest, but no, we were supposed to keep them all since we would need big stats. I got huge numbers, including a 22 in dexterity, and went for a variant human, crossbow expert, sharpshooter, gloomstalker ranger. Yeah, I know. My friend just played a champion fighter. The session starts and everything is going fast. We got off a boat into a village. Some dude appears from the forest and goes into the local tavern. The villagers start talking amongst themselves about how no one ever escapes the forest. So I followed that guy in to ask some questions. My friend stays outside the tavern, and at that moment, Strahd appears. Strahd is just there, chilling outside the tavern, shouting, "I am Strahd, vengeance, I want vengeance!" I guess he wanted a lot of vengeance because he kept repeating the same lines. My friend unsuccessfully tried to have a conversation with him.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am
Strahd! Sorry, I had to. In the end, Strahd grabs my friend by the neck, my friend stabs him, and Strahd just disappears. It was ruled that I didn't hear any of that, and after not getting a single answer from the forest dude, I go back outside and ask my friend what just happened. Immediately after, we meet Little Red Riding Hood? Yeah, that one. And she asks us to escort her to her grandma's house in the forest. In the way, we find some gnolls, and after a single round of combat, we realize that the DM doesn't know what armor class is. We asked him for the stat blocks and pretty much run the combat ourselves, continuing to travel afterwards. We get to Grandma's house, and she explains to us Strahd's lore, except it's the plot for Netflix's Castlevania, swapping Lisa for Lenore. Her ship, I guess. My friend teases the DM, arguing in character that she heard the story before, but the wife's name is Lisa, not Lenore. It goes on for a while before I convince her to drop the subject. Wait, oh my god, this DM took the character that all the Castlevania fandom was simping over and just shipped her with Strahd? I mean, that's one way to build a D&D campaign. We get our weapons silvered, and we are tasked to look for the man that killed Strahd's wife. We find him in the tavern. Van Helsing. Yes, that one. He is insufferable, refusing to answer any question unless we prove him our worth in battle. I was expecting something wild, but Helsing goes down like a sack of potatoes before he can even get a turn. We decide to tie him to a wheelbarrow and deliver him to Strahd as a gift. As far as we know, the poor vampire is only guilty of shouting vengeance in a residential area. Well, Strahd was not at his castle at the moment, and the butler invites us to wait inside. It's around at this point that the DM tells us that Van Helsing is gone. In the wheelbarrow, there's just a random villager. We ask the DM to explain how he pulled that off, but they can't. The session ends there, and we suggest to the DM that they should stick to a system and campaign that they actually know. The DM takes it remarkably well and kills the campaign to work on a different story, to everyone's relief. TLDR, DM tries to run Castlevania / Curse of Strahd fanfic without knowing the rules of 5th edition. It goes as expected. This isn't really a horror story, it's just more like mild and harmless cringe, kind of like those fairy TikToks that all the kids do. It's not hurting anybody, and there's no reason to get mad about it. In fact, the DM here does exactly what they should. They take the criticism and try to improve. Frankly, in my first D&D campaign, I can't say I was much better. It was a definite fanfic of a bunch of different things that I like put into Curse of Strahd. I mean, I can't say I was much better than this guy. In fact, I even had a problem player I didn't know how to deal with that made the whole thing even worse. Check out my 10k subscriber special if you want to learn more about that bonanza. But yeah, even if this DM has weird taste, they aren't doing anything wrong, and they aren't hurting anyone. Though I will say, try to learn the basic rules of the game before you run your fanfiction through it. So last week I showed up to the first session of this new campaign, which I was pretty excited about, as it was my first time playing as a cleric. There were 2 other players, a rather happy-go-lucky dude I'd played with before. He was funny and had wacky characters, this time playing a wizard, and the DM's wife, who seemed relatively experienced with D&D, playing a paladin / warlock. The campaign is a homebrewed one by the DM and has loose Norse mythology links, which I was interested in to explore in that aspect. The DM is rather loosey-goosey about the character building, so he said it was okay for me to take a feat and have an uncommon magic item as we started at level 3. The first session was pretty decent, a typical dungeon crawler feel as we made our way through the haunted mansion, stumbling into a handful of mimics and strange shadow creatures. So it was combat intensive, but I began to have my suspicions about the paladin. They always seem to roll exceptionally high, no matter the actual roll, at least for a level 3 character, and always came first in initiative. Overall though, it was a good session, and we discussed creating a campaign on D&D Beyond to keep track of homebrew magic items. We also leveled up. Second session today began getting weirder. After we had been locked in a cell following the events of the last session, Loki himself showed up, introducing himself as the paladin's dad. I thought, hey, pretty cool, daughter of Loki trying to make her way in the world. Honestly, cool character concept. The later half of the session became combat intensive too, as we ran to a large group of lycanthropic bandits. As combat went on, my suspicions only grew as I counted the damage this paladin took through the fight before healing, almost tanking 60 points of damage at level 4. Again, top of initiative nearly every fight. So today I got home and debated something, and whether or not it was okay to do, or if I'm being untrusting, but I did it. I went on D&D Beyond and looked at her character sheet, and to my unsurprised horror, her lowest ability score was 18. This paladin warlock had a 20 in strength, 28 in dexterity, that's plus 9 by the way, 23 in con, plus 6, hence the extra health, 19 on intellect, 18 on wisdom, and 27 on charisma. Now it did end there, and I was going to use this as like an intro story or something, but eyes up, we've got part 2. Hello all, I got a lot more interaction on the first part of this post than I expected, with an overwhelmingly large amount of people offering amazing advice from multiple perspectives. For reference, the last post explained a DM of a campaign I joined had given his wife, a paladin, ability scores ranging from 18 to 28 at level 4. He was frequently throwing AC 25 enemies at us that only she could hit. This wasn't found out until I snooped on her character sheet. Many people suggested running, many suggested talking to the DM about it, and many people said it was a lost cause. But the one that helped the most was a user who suggested confronting the situation in front of the group, so the DM couldn't make me out to be the bad guy in front of the other players. I'm still not mad at these people, I'm not angry, I just don't have the level of trust to continue playing. I tried asking around to see if I could find a replacement player before confronting the situation, but no one responded. To save what could become a shouting match, I opted to do this over the group chat we have. What follows is the conversation that we had. Good morning, just want to let you guys know with a little bit of advance that I don't want to continue playing in this campaign. I want to make it clear though, it's not anyone's fault, it's just between the choices made for balancing for this campaign and the type of character I want to play. I don't think it's going to work out. I find the combat encounters from last week to be heavily unbalanced between NPCs with literal CR 30 level strength and player characters with higher stats than a typical level 20 character at level 4, and fighting enemies at level 4 with ACs of CR 20 plus creatures. I feel like I'm completely unable to contribute. Either I stack myself up with extra buffy stats which destroys my character concept and any chance of progression, or I'm unable to land attacks or contribute to any story points with skill checks. The lack of balance between player stats, especially the high 27 pluses and minimum of 18 ability scores, basically make it so that there's literally no point to anyone else rolling checks apart from that player character. I feel like there was perhaps some miscommunication regarding the character creation, balancing, and overall themes of the campaign. Good luck with your game, and I really hope you have fun. Sorry for the inconvenience. I leave the group, and the DM adds me back to the group. If we start again, I will bring the armor class down to a manageable level for the hit dice. Do the levels as normal rolls and not buff if you guys don't need or want to. I'm sorry, I've been staring at the sentence for 2 minutes, and it looks like somebody just took a bunch of D&D terms, stuck them all together to sound smart. Like, what does that sentence even mean? Can base the stats on the player's handbook. I appreciate the heads up. All I need feedback to know when to change things. Okay, that's not entirely the point. I'm a little disheartened we played 2 sessions without anyone letting me know that one player was, for lack of a better word, overpowered. It's not entirely about the lack of balance, but also the lack of forthrightness in sharing game-defining information with all the players. Unfortunately, from my perspective, having one player with beyond endgame stats while other players don't breaks trust, and I'm not sure I feel comfortable being part of a campaign after that. We are making changes to the characters and the Strength 30 NPC. That was meant for occasional backup, and Paladin has changed her stat buffs. And I appreciate your frustration. I'd rather everyone enjoys themselves and lets me know when things need changing. An NPC was meant to start as a mount. Plus, it's my first time running a campaign. Paladin jumps in at this point. Is it me that caused this? My stats are unbuffed, and all other players can check them. She then sends her fair stats, which are 17, 17, 18, 18, 18, 19. Look, I feel like you're missing my point. I know it can be fixed by reducing Paladin stats and by making changes. It's just one of the situations where, we played 2 sessions without being told that one of the player characters was significantly buffed compared to everyone else's. Even when it's been reduced to a lowest score of 17, that's still higher than what you'd expect at level 15, let alone level 4. But numerical values and balance issues aren't the problem here because you can do a campaign where everyone plays with OP ability scores. The problem lies in not explaining the situation. This wouldn't have been addressed if I hadn't been snooping on her character sheet. There would have been just more sessions without it being explained that one player's scores are significantly higher. The problem then becomes you can physically, numerically fix these issues, but after 2 sessions, and who knows how many more if I hadn't found out, of this massive aspect of the game going completely unaddressed, it becomes hard to then continue playing because there could be other stuff that's simply being hidden or not addressed. The trust is broken for me, and I'm not sure what to do about that. I did explain I was going to allow high modifiers on ability scores as long as they were applicable to character type and class, and I'm not kicking Paladin off the campaign. That's not what I've suggested at all. There's a huge difference between high modifiers and 28 and 27 being the 2 highest scores. And saying applicable to character type is undermining the situation here. Had it been one ability score, I'd have accepted it. Daughter of Loki having super high charisma makes sense for the character. Having super high everything is unbalanced and unfair. But please, I haven't suggested kicking anyone off the campaign, nor would I. I'm just explaining why I no longer wish to be part of the campaign. DM replies by kicking me from the group. So overall, ended up leaving the campaign. Hope you guys think the things I was pointing out here were fair. There's a huge difference between being a new DM and the level of imbalance that was in this game. They didn't seem to understand that the problem was not the stats, but the lack of transparency surrounding them. Thanks for all the help. This is an amazing community. Oh, edit/update. I received several messages from a few mutuals who also play D&D at the same game shop from outside the campaign. Apparently, I don't understand how to balance the game and was constantly trying to get my wife kicked out. And I was trying so hard to be the main character and other stuff. Luckily, thanks to some great advice from some users here, I had some screenshots to back myself up. TLDR, confronted the DM and wife in group chat about favoritism. DM suggested restarting the campaign. Wife changed her stats to a totally balanced 17, 17, 18, 18, 18, 19. DM suggested I was trying to get his wife kicked from the group and then kicked me from the chat when I pointed out I hadn't said that at all. We have a bad case of DM favoritism here, people. We haven't seen that in a little bit, especially when it pertains to a romantic partner, but yeah, we have a DM who gave his wife not just insane stats, but an insane backstory. I don't like using the term Mary Sue, but it definitely applies in this situation. And yeah, look, in D&D, we can create some really awesome, incredible, and powerful characters, but it's important to not make it a, for lack of a better term, dick measuring contest between all of the players. We're all supposed to be working together as a group to build ourselves up as a team of heroes, not trying to make one hero stand above the rest by making them the literal child of a god. Not to say that backstory can't work, it can absolutely work, as long as you don't use it to hold yourself above the other players. However, when you combine that with godlike stats, well, you're definitely going to hold yourself above the other players, not just in roleplay, but in terms of combat and gameplay mechanics. The DM's response is not great. OP clearly did not want to stay in the game, and the DM tried to convince him to stay by just throwing a bunch of BS reasoning at him and trying to beat him down by principle of logical inertia, I guess? Yeah, not going to work out, and hell, even if it did, it's not like anyone would be having fun anyway. I mean, 318s at level 4? That's still not exactly average stats. Alright, and that's going to be it for today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. By the way, we got something really cool coming up for this weekend, so if you want to let me know that you're excited for that, or that you enjoyed this video, then please do hit the like button. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tips series, where I go over advice for both DMs and players old and new. And while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment God stats to let me know you made it to the end of the video. And now since like, comment, subscribe, I will see you all next time. Farewell.